You've heard of boob windows. Now try butt windows. Get your booty glazed today. Hell, get your booty double glazed. Cool, pain in your ass. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnetdale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnetdale. And welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast with two queer trans women. That's us. We're wifey types. We have a bit of a silly little catch-up about how we've been doing media consumption-wise in the week.
Om nom nom, tasty media.
Om nom nom, tasty media. How you doing this week, Jane?
I'm a sleepy little bean.
I'm also a sleepy little bean.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
I don't know where all the sleepies come from. I shouldn't be that sleepy today,
I know, right?
but it's real clawing in there.
I'm being burrowed into by some kind of Sandshrew.
Well, don't. So you know what Sancho is? It's from a video game. What have you played this week?
That's smooth.
You don't
so smooth.
You don't do podcasting for a decade without going quick. What's a segue?
So it's like 25 grand, and you can ride on it. It's just two wheels, and you sort of.
What have you played?
Hoverboard with a handle.
What have you played this week?
What are you playing, stranger? Well, we played some board games.
We did. What did we play? Where did we start?
We played some Mansions of Madness 2nd edition.
Yes, this is a cooperative board game we played with some friends at the weekend.
Yes.
It was
a game they've owned for a while and have apparently never managed to get a serious game of out.
They played one game of at some point and it didn't go well.
It didn't go very well.
They ignored the plot and that was to their detriment.
Apparently so.
So this is a cooperative board game that's sort of in the vein of something like Betrayal, in as much as like it's one of those. You're in a building and you're like revealing rooms as you go and things are getting added to them as you go. Mm-hmm. But you are like you've got a little scenario and it'll be like, hey, the one we did was you're an investigator and you've been called out to some house and some spooky mysterious shit's going on. And you walk in and like you hear a commotion from a room and you're like, I should probably go investigate that. And you basically have to fight monsters and find clues to try and stop legally distinct Cthulhu-esque...
Not legally distinct, because it's all public domain.
Well, yeah, it's not that it's not public domain, but I don't think they use any of the Lovecraft name. Do they?
Yes.
Maybe? I'll correct me.
Fantasy Flight have made Lovecraft, like a lot of Cthulhu mythos Lovecrafty games. The Arkham Horror card game we played is also one of theirs.
I apologise. I pointed at one of the things and said it was Cthulhu because it looked like Cthulhu was told that is a legally distinct, not called Cthulhu, and that's why I assumed this wasn't Lovecraft mythos, like that it was knockoff names.
I'm not sure why you would have been told that. Maybe it's like a baby Cthulhu and isn't technically.
Maybe I was told a name for it that wasn't Cthulhu, despite it looking like Cthulhu, and I misunderstood. Okay, in that case,
it's just a Cthulhu or something.
Well, in that case, I stand corrected. It's an H.P. Lovecraft mythosy. Stop the mystical horrors from beyond your comprehension.
Yes. An amateur astronomer is trying to summon demons from beyond our comprehension in order to get his wife back from the dead.
All 8 planets have aligned. Pluto can do whatever it wants. We don't care about what Pluto's up to. The other planets are in alignment. That's fine.
I like to imagine Pluto was included, but they were like, fuck Mars.
Mars doesn't have to be in alignment. Mars knows what it did.
Yeah.
Yeah. First thing I would say about this game, the playtime estimate is wildly inaccurate.
Yeah, because initially our friends were like, we've played the first one, can we try about the next one? And the base game of this comes with 4 scenarios.
Yeah.
And the first one is listed as 60 to 90 minutes. And I feel like we were closer to 3 hours for that.
I think 3.5 hours is a pretty good estimate of that.
And I didn't feel like we were, dawdling at any point.
We're experienced board game people who, know what we're doing. It's not that we were, looking up rules all the time. We stopped once or twice for tea, but,
Yeah, we strategized.
It was not a 90-minute game, I can sure say that. One of the things that's interesting about it compared to something like, say, Betrayal in terms of, that sort of sprawling as you do it board, is there's a companion app.
There is.
And that app is interesting.
That's unique to the 2nd edition. Apparently the 1st edition did require somebody to be DMing this.
Okay. I'm glad the app exists. Because, there's a degree of randomizing, like, where events will show up. For example, the pair that had played it before, like, one of them went into a certain room and started doing a minigame because he was...
I know where a gun is.
Yeah, I know where a gun is. There was not a gun in there.
No.
Because it sort of randomizes where things get set out. And, like, that's a nice element to it. In a similar vein, I like that app is used to integrate, like, some puzzles.
Yeah, you got some, like, sliding block puzzles. The sort of thing you usually see with, like, getting vehicles out of a car park, sliding block puzzles.
Yeah, like using that to be a stand-in for lockpicking, and the way that they balance that mechanic is your characters have various stats that are going to be used for different things, and let's say maybe it's your lore stat, your little book learning stat, is how many actions you will get trying to solve that puzzle. But because it's an app, if you don't manage to, like, complete the puzzle in that many moves, someone else can come do it later and it will have saved your progress.
Yes.
So they can start from where you got to.
Yes.
And that's a cool mechanic.
Yeah, it's a nice idea. I also like that, like, fighting enemies has persistent health, but I think the way we learned it, the sort of instructional video we watched, thank you, Watch It Played, thank you, Rodney, talks about, like, investigating things, or, like, when you investigate an object, if you haven't put enough investigation points into it on your turn, then those points will be added to the next lot for somebody else to come along and have a go at it. And I just like the idea of just investigating monsters to death. Because they too have cumulative things that we're slowly chipping away.
Yeah, it's nice that there are some things like that are cumulative, where, like, hey, you failed a skill check, but the amount of points you were able to put into that skill check haven't gone to waste. So, like, you won't just get this situation of, like, well, we've got to pass a 3 in this stat, and 3 people in a row got a 2, and that you just keep not passing. It's like, no, cumulatively you've got past the thing, keep the game flowing.
Yeah.
And that, again, is nice. I think there's a lot of things this game does that just help to keep it moving a little bit in terms of, like, not having those kind of failed checks slow you down as much as other games might.
Yeah, they were talking about the fact that when they played before, like, there was very clearly a time limit on the game, because the app will just start throwing more and more monsters at you as it is getting to, like, a certain turn period, and it certainly did seem to be the case.
But yeah, you've got things like characters or items that might give you rerolls. You've got things that, like, oh, that's a powerful item that's going to help us go quickly, but it might come with drawbacks. I like how the spell system works. Spells are generally, like, pretty powerful in terms of what they will achieve, and you can use them repeatedly. But whenever you use a spell, you end up, like, having to flip it over and see the back of it, and it'll have a random negative, usually negative effect. Sometimes it'll be mixed or maybe even, like, neutral. And then you draw another version of that spell from the deck to replace it, so you don't know what the potential, crossfire of the spell's going to be.
And there seem to be, like, 5 or 6 of each spell, so...
Yeah, so a reasonable amount of variation for this powerful ability you might have access to. I like that mechanic.
Yeah, there was some really good ideas in it. I mean, the dice rolling made it kind of random. The fact that the app was able to, like, put little bits in of randomization, even to the point of when you attack an enemy, it's like, okay, this time you're using this stat. It's not all just about fists. You might be using, like, your evasion or your whatever your movement skill is. Like, it was a nice idea that the app could just go, hey, you've got to pass this. And it might be like, sometimes you might have like a lower difficulty threshold for doing it. But also you might find that, like, there's only like a fixed amount of damage that it will do versus damage plus your, plus what you rolled.
Yeah, it's an interesting, you never know quite how, like, you can't solidly plan out how much damage you're going to do in an attack. You just have to kind of go with the vibes and keep moving. And, like, it didn't feel too bullshit for a game that uses dice rolling as a core mechanic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a fun time with that.
Yeah, I had a fun time. It was an interesting explore. It was interesting to see a Fantasy Flight Arkham horror game that it felt less punishing than most of the other ones I've tried.
Yeah,
and more willing to manage itself.
I at least as like an introductory mission, it felt better paced for we are up against the wire and things are tough, but like it feels reasonably like we might get out of this.
Yeah, I think that my only complaint would be, first of all, that the base game only comes with 4 missions.
Yes.
And typically, like, I'm sure you could probably find a way to randomly do it yourself, and that is obviously something that the first edition had over it. Yes, you were going to have someone DMing it, and that was going to be, like, work for a specific person to learn a good chunk of the game, I would imagine, before you can start playing. But also, like, if the app disappears at some point in the future, what do you do? I did appreciate the fact that the app was available on, like, iOS, Android, and Steam.
Yeah.
So we could just, like, put it on the Steam Deck, stick it in the Steam Dock, and then just play on the TV.
Yeah.
Because I was like, do we need to mirrorcast this? Because I knew that, like, there was some talking in the app, and it was like, okay, how do we want to do this? Do we want to put, like, a speaker on the table, or what?
Yeah.
I don't really want to huddle everybody around a phone. So it was nice to be able to go, pop it on the Steam Deck, plug a mouse in.
Worked quite nicely.
Yeah, it was great.
We also started replaying with this group of friends. We've played it before, but we started going through Pandemic Legacy Season 0.
Yeah, we did.
And my big takeaway so far is the same one we've had for Seasons 1 and 2 of Pandemic Legacy. Sure is more challenging in 4-player than in 2-player.
Yeah, I have heard rumours from people on BGG talking about the fact that, like, playing it 2-player is, like, the easy mode.
Yeah.
Maybe, but there were only 2 of us available at the time that we played it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it certainly is more challenging. But who knows? Like, we succeeded. It was tight, but we succeeded.
We had a mixed success on our first month, but it was a success nonetheless.
I feel like we had a few mixed successes when we played it as well.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But the Pandemic Legacy Season 0, I feel like, pushes you forward more. Whereas, especially Season 2 was like, oh, you fully failed. And you, apart from the fact that you might have been able to open a box or add some extra stickers to the board to expand the map, I don't feel like that one pushed you. It certainly didn't feel like it was pushing you forward as much.
Yeah. We've talked about Season 0 before, but for anyone that's not heard us talk about it before, mechanically, it's pretty similar, at least in its opening months, to regular Pandemic, in as much as it's been reskinned. You're not taking disease cubes off the board. You're running around in the Cold War, removing spies from various locations.
Various cities around the world.
There's a couple of important tweaks, the big ones being you have a passport system.
Yes.
So as you're traveling around the world, you're like, yeah, you've got all the different continents, but you've also got the, like, different regions depending on political affiliation.
Yeah, so they're either Allied, Soviet, or neutral.
Yes, and those might not always align neatly with geographically where they are. And rather than making your research stations that you can sort of fly between in a convenient like that, you're instead making these little vans that can move about the board, but that don't act as ways for you to fast travel. And there's some little changes like that, but it does start relatively in line with base Pandemic.
Yeah, the concept of, like, you, as you would in base Pandemic, you're infecting cities, and it's 3 things on the first 3 cards out.
Yeah.
2 things on the next 3 cards out, and then 1 thing on the next 3 cards out, except they're all the same colour and they're all the same figure in this case. And then you've got, instead of having outbreaks, you are basically saying there has been an incident in this area, and that means that at the end of that game, or at the end of that month, you're going to be adding an eye to that board in that space, which means that if you start your turn in that area, you are going to get, you're going to basically start having your cover slowly blown.
Yes. I love the theming on this. It's delightfully consistent in its theming.
Yeah.
I think that the little passport book where you fill in is one of the greatest things about this game, and I love it so much. You have, like, multiple pages of passport for your different fake identities, and you put the same base, like, face sticker in all the pages, and then you have different, like, disguise things you layer over your face sticker to be like, here are my different fake identities as I travel the world.
Yep.
And That is delightful.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your base abilities are themed around what is your cover story? Like, what is your job you're pretending to do that justifies you traveling here?
Yeah.
That sort of gives you your powers. It's a really fun theming.
And from what I remember of this game overall, like this one feels like it has the most interesting, unique extra twists.
Yes.
And I am glad that some of that stuff managed to get spun off into regular pandemic
Yes.
expansions.
Yes.
Because there's so many just weird little bits. It's just like, what? This is very cool. And it's a shame that it's in a single-use product, really. But yeah, like, I remember really liking Pandemic Legacy Season 0. I feel like we finished it in like 4 or 5 weeks.
We really binged Season 0.
I feel like we played like 6 games one weekend at one point.
We did have a very lengthy weekend of binging it.
We did, but it was October 2020, September 2020, so...
Yeah.
Understandable, really. We were inside a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been nice to get back to it. It's been nice to try it with different people. And, you know, the joys of ADHD, just like refreshing of, yes, this happened at the beginning. And, yeah, it's been fun to do, and I think Pandemic Legacy Season 0 is probably one of my, of the 3 of them, I feel like it's pretty high up there. I can't tell if that or the first one is my favourite. I also really do like 2, because it's such a different
That
thing.
whole trilogy is real solid.
It really is.
Yeah.
What about you? What have you played?
I started playing something this evening before we recorded today, and I'm very excited to play more of it. I've started playing the Plucky Squire.
How plucky that Squire.
Very plucky.
Yeah.
This game is adorable. For anyone that's not seen anything to do with this game, it is a sort of beautifully drawn 2D aesthetic, sort of storybook-esque game of, like, a little cute top-down Zelda sort of experience. You're running around with your little sword, going on your little adventures, having your little magical time, and then events transpire that push your little storybook hero out of the book into the 3D world of the desk and the bedroom that the book is in.
It's like Pikmin meets Link's Awakening.
A
like
little
the new
bit.
one.
It is a charming little game about going back and forth between 2D environments and 3D environments to do little puzzle solving, sword fighty adventures, and it's delightful. It is delightful. I have not played hugely far into it. I've had maybe an hour, maybe a little over an hour to play it so far. First impressions, it reminds me tone-wise so much of Hilda, the animated show we've talked about before. A little girl moves from nature into the big city and has all sorts of magical adventures with, like, trolls and elves and things. It feels very Hilda in its sort of, like, charmingly the magic of childhood and believing in the fantastical. And in the way that, like, its attitude to adventure is handled and its attitude towards magic. It's very soft and wholesome in a way that is very joyous, that I love very much. It is funnier than I expected it to be. Like, I wasn't expecting the inciting incident of the game to be, I was awoken by the wizard next door blasting bangin' techno. He needs me to go on a quest to get some wax so we can press some more records of his new tune he's been working on. So I go climb a hill and ask a magic bee for some wax to make a record, so we can make more records. I'm like, this game's got a good sense of humour to it. Does a lot of, like, throwing unexpected different mechanics at you. If it can keep up this density of throwing new mechanics at you, I will be impressed. What have I done so far? There was a little bit of Baba is you so far, of, like, taking a word out of a sentence and putting a new word in to change the world. I did a little punch out against a honey badger.
That's dangerous.
They're dangerous. It's consistently throwing very cute things at me that are very well done in their execution. None of the, like, different gameplay mechanics it has thrown out have felt underbaked. They've all felt very, very well thought through. it's made a very good first impression, and I'm very excited for this to be the thing that keeps me distracted until Echoes of Wisdom comes out in like a week and a half.
Oh.
What about you? What you been playing this week?
I've been playing both Saints Row 3 and Saints Row 4.
Yeah.
So we've been playing some Saints Row 3 together. We've done a little bit more of that.
You've been playing a good chunk of that in co-op.
Yeah, it's been fun to play it co-op because I had not done so before. And yeah, it's still fun. I enjoy the music in that. It's very silly.
Having never played it in co-op, it's quite interesting realizing that as player 2 you sometimes get offered mini-games that player 1 just never sees. Such as, we're trying to drive a tiger somewhere, I've got to play the pet the tiger in the back of the van so it doesn't get angry minigame.
Which is an important minigame.
It's an important minigame. I gotta keep that tiger happy.
You gotta keep the tiger happy if you're riding around.
Yeah, some of those have been like really weird, fun little things to discover.
Also just realising that they're there.
Yeah, suddenly going, wait, I'm doing something here?
Wait, I assumed I was just gonna get to sit here while you drove.
Yes, no, I've got shit to do.
Yeah, it's been fun to do that. We've just got to the point of getting the VTOL so we can fly around now as well.
Yep, we our parking garage is just like, yeah, you can have just like a military jet that you stole, sure, why not?
And the helicopter we stole, and the tank that we stole. And...
It's doing the very Saints Row escalation,
yeah,
which you've been experiencing all the more because you've also been playing Saints Row 4, which is Saints Row escalating over itself to the umpteenth degree.
To the point where they were like, I guess we don't know what to do after this.
They really did set a high bar for themselves to try and meet again.
4 is supremely chaotic. It starts being very silly with its fucking 3D Space Invaders moment on the lawn of the White House fighting aliens.
Yeah. It's a game that starts with climbing a nuke to Aerosmith and somehow manages to go up from there in ridiculousness.
Yeah, it sure is like a superpower power fantasy. I can, leap tall buildings and run up the sides of things.
It's right up it's right up there with the modern PlayStation Spider-Mans in terms of open world games where it's genuinely fun to like real time travel around the open world. Saints Row, the ability to like sprint and just leap clear over multiple buildings is it's underrated. It's so good.
It does feel very cool, and it's a shame that we couldn't get something similar from that team.
Yeah, I'd love to see that style of Saints Row revisited at some point.
Like, I get why they were like, we need a reboot now, because there's nowhere to go from here.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, Get Out of Hell really didn't scratch the itch for anyone.
I must have talked about Get Out of Hell.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. It could have been. It just didn't put the effort in either with its musical concept or with making Kinsey an actual character. Grumble.
Yes, grumble. Yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, like I need another game that is that sort of just like ridiculous, over the top, super powered, ridiculous wrestling moves, and gosh knows whatever else. Bits of it haven't aged well. Obviously, because it is what it is, and from when it was. But like that whole opening section is just like, oh, we really are just doing. Oh, that's what all terrorists look like, is it?
Yeah.
But the thing is, that sequence is so short, and the rest of the game is so ridiculously over the top. Until I played it again, I kind of forgot that that's how you get from wherever the game starts to climbing up a nuclear missile.
Yeah.
That's certainly not cool. But there's a lot of other things in there that just feel really nice.
Yeah.
Like taking the concept of the insurance fraud minigame from Saints Row 3, where it's just like, oh yeah, I sort of limply ragdoll in front of cars and I hope they hit me just right so that I can, rack up ridiculous points. In Saints Row 4, it's like, nah, fuck it. You turn into a cartwheel and you will just roll bizarrely down the road at incredibly high speeds and rack up literally millions of dollars in seconds just because. and then later on getting to like ride around in a mech suit and smash the shit out of things.
Tee-hee-hee.
Especially the police, which always feels good.
Yeah.
It's been fun to revisit it. I was a bit surprised to go, I got through the whole thing in like 16 hours. But to be fair, I have played it like all the way through twice before, so like I know the best way to get to do that game.
Yeah.
But what about you?
Oh, I've been playing a little bit of another thing that is charming and I'm so glad exists. I've been playing some 00 Perfect Stop, which is a train simulator for Playdate.
What?
The tiny little yellow the game console that fits in my purse really nicely and has a little crank on the side has a train simulator game.
Choo-choo.
You use the crank to be your little throttle to sort of accelerate or brake. You've got your little crank to emulate that.
Yeah.
And it is a 3D perspective first-person train sim, where your primary responsibility, it is in the Denture to Go school of train sims, where it is primarily about accurate stopping at stations,
right,
and timing your very precise stops within position on at the stations as they're coming up. But you do still get to do the journey between the stations as well. It's you do your little train journey, and you try not to go too fast, so you're not speeding. And then as you come up to the station, you start slowing down. You try and stop exactly on the thing, and it's a little train sim that fits on a tiny thing in my bag that I can just put. And it doesn't take up any space, and I can just have a train sim with me, like, basically whenever. And I'm very excited about its existence.
Yay!
I'm very excited it exists.
Yay!
I have not had as much time to play it this week as I would like, because work stuff, but I played a little bit, and I'm very excited. So, if you like train sims, and you have a Playdate, there's a train sim on Playdate. And
there is.
That's been a good bit of this week.
Yeah!
What about you? You played anything else this week?
I started playing Peglin.
Yeah.
It's Peggle-like.
But RPG, kinda.
I guess, yeah, it's doing the roguelite RPG thing. The roguelite RPG is shorter than I expected.
Yeah.
I managed to get through it on my third run.
Yes, but then it starts introducing, like, difficulty modifiers and things and stuff.
Yeah, like, I was a bit confused, just like, wait, hang on, why am I being kicked back to the start screen? I just beat the boss, and it was only 3 bosses, 3 areas, what do?
Yeah.
But yeah, I can tell that wasn't really a problem with me, because I almost immediately restarted playing it.
This is exactly my thing. I had no similar experience where I was like, I was surprised that it ended as soon as it did, but then went, you know what, that means that I can commit to a run and know that even if it's like a full-length run, it's not going to be that long. Cool. I can manageably fit this into whenever. And that encouraged me to play it more, and I jumped back in and kept going.
Yeah. It feels like that it's probably going to be more encouraging to replay than something like Luck Be a Landlord, which was a lot of fun, but had a, like, very definite, you have reached the end point.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's done a good job from that point of view. And, I have enjoyed what I've played so far. I've collected a number of balls. I am slowly filling up my Encyclopedia. I can't remember which it is. It loves its sphere puns.
It does love its sphere puns.
It sure does. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. What about you? Have you played anything else?
Other than that, it's mainly been I've just finished doing a replay of Dragon Age Inquisition on stream.
Yeah,
I've
you
been
did.
playing that over the last several months in little couple of hours here and there chunks.
Did you manage to stop the Veilguard?
Veilguard is unfortunately still happening.
Oh.
I did not manage to prevent the next Dragon Age game from coming out by beating this one so good. Here is my takeaways from having replayed Inquisition. That game has some fundamental problems, and I think its biggest issues are the pacing of its first act. Modern BioWare and this sort of era of BioWare game, I think, shine greatest when they really let you get to know your party members and start spending time with them, and specifically start having those little interactions that are nothing to do with the saving the world, but are just fun little interactions. And this BioWare game has some really fucking good ones of those that it takes way too long to get to. There is an opening act of this game where, like, the villain hasn't been introduced yet, and none of your companions have, like, warmed up to you enough that they will actually start interacting with you properly, and the game is not very good at telling you, like, it's got these big open areas to do quests in, but it's not very good at signaling to a new player, these are the actually important quests. Once you've done these, you can move on and that's okay. And, like, encouraging you to, like, I think the important thing for anyone that jumps into Inquisition today to know, to not get put off the game, is just get out of the hinterlands as fast as you can. And honestly, just mainline plot quests until the main villain is introduced, and it'll be very clear that that's happening. It'll be very clear this is a shift to the like a new act of the game. That's where the game, like, really finds its footing. Yeah. And I think the quicker you get the game to enter that phase, the more enjoyable you will find it. Positives, I really like the romance path I did on this playthrough. I romanced a character called Iron Bull, who is big, tall man with big horns.
Good voice.
He's voiced by, I think, Freddie Prinze Jr. Apparently. But he's big, tall strongman with his group of little warriors, including Krem, trans man, wonderful. Iron Bull is a good trans ally. It says the iconic line about his trans man friend, "Why would I give a nug's ass if he has a bit more trouble pissing standing up?" And I'm like, that's a good attitude to have, sir. But I really like Iron Bull as a romance path in Inquisition, because, how do I put this? It's rare to see a character who is a male character who is interested in being a dom in a dom-sub relationship, who doesn't come off as creepy, who doesn't come off as, like, a big major red flag, in that, like, when he starts, like, this starts being introduced, he, like, 3 or 4 times in the space of, like, less than a minute, he establishes ongoing clear consent. Like, as things escalate, is this do I still have your enthusiastic clear consent? I'm like, this is good modeling. The second time you interact with him and, like, this conversation comes up again, before having to even ask, he goes, "I've been thinking about this, and there's some rules that I think might help make sure that, like, this is safe and well handled." He's like, "I've thought about safe words already. I've thought about, like, where we draw the line between the relationship in the bedroom and, like, the fact that outside of the bedroom you are still my boss, and making sure that you being a sub in here does not interfere with you being my boss out there." Like, he's very clearly thought through a lot of the, like,
practicalities.
The practicalities of making sure that, like, this is a safe thing to engage in and that it's okay. And his reason he sort of, like, what he sees the relationship as being is, you are someone who was thrust into being, like, the world's savior without really your choice. Suddenly you've had all this pressure to save the world thrust on you, and that's a lot. It's a lot of fucking pressure to take. If I can create a dynamic in this room where you don't have to think, you're not responsible for anything.
Just switch brain off.
Switch brain off, have fun. I take the lead. If that can make it a little easier for you to, outside of this room, be the one that has to bear the pressure of everything going on out there, how's that?
I feel like that's not an uncommon situation in the real world,
right? So
why not in the video game world?
But, like, isn't that, like, a weirdly, like, I wouldn't have expected video game to do that. And it's a very
nice change.
Yeah, it's nice to see a representation of a male dom that I don't just get the ick from.
You're just here for the abuse.
Yeah, it at no point does Iron Bull feel like he is there because he is in, like, haha, I'm going to enjoy doing stuff that you don't like and then being like, well, you've got to let me. Like, it's never that vibe.
Yeah.
It is purely, this is something
a safe, sane, and consensual relationship.
Yeah, this is a thing that we are doing only as long as it works for you. Here is a safe word that, like, if you want to stop anything, whether we've previously established it was okay, you say the safe word, I stop, no questions asked, you don't have to explain a thing.
Celery.
Iron Bull's real good, I love Iron Bull, he's great. This was my first time, like, doing all the DLC, like, as the game was progressing as it was intended to, as opposed to, like, doing it in bits and bobs, because it wasn't all released when the game originally came out. One of the DLC is the one that, delving into the deep roads, The final boss on that is kind of bullshit. It's janky and like it feels like it's hard to be hard just to be kind of frustrating.
Right.
Because people complained the game was too easy, so we made a DLC hard. My main other takeaway is the final DLC, Trespasser. It does such a good job of one-to-one directly setting up the events that appear to be the starting events of Veilguard based on the 20 minutes they've shown. It's weird replaying Trespasser and going, oh, this is like literally one-to-one. We're watching these conversations and going, oh yeah, no, that character that's showing up like at the start of Veilguard, oh yeah, you bring them up there. I see exactly where we're starting from here.
That's those people from the bar in the teaser trailer.
That's those people from that thing, and here's why they're doing what they do. So that's been real interesting. I've been having a good time with that. What about you? What you been playing? Anything else?
I've been cuddling this kitty.
She's so good.
She's very good and very cuddly.
She's very cuddly.
She's come for a cuddle.
Aww.
Like right on my shoulder.
That she has.
What else have I played? That's kind of been it, really. I've been painting minis.
Yeah, you have.
After all the other minis I've painted, I am now slowly working through your Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid.
Yes, you are.
Whew, that's going to take a while.
It's quite the army.
It is quite the army. I've done all the putties. I'm currently doing the super putties, and I've primed the Quantrons. So, yeah. Minis, getting painted. Doing stuff with my hands.
Yeah.
It's good to do. What about you? Have you played anything else?
That's about it.
Well then.
Time for this.
Right, I know it's a little late on this, but there was that Barbie movie was rather successful.
Yeah, it made a lot of money, and I do like money.
Indeed, female empowerment and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, it's got to empower the early types.
Indeed. So I've been brainstorming with some of the other men in the office.
Oh, that's right. I mean, what better than a number of men to decide what the women should be watching?
What would be empowering the women?
Yeah.
So I've been coming up with some ideas of things that I think could rival Barbie in terms of, empowering powerful role models for women in films.
Indeed. Yeah.
So, starting obviously with Ruthless Woman CEO.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely loves to fire people and siphon surplus income from them.
Oh, gotta love that. Probably very rich. Like a good stock portfolio.
Indeed.
A number of properties. Any other thoughts?
I was thinking a film about a woman landlord.
A number of properties.
Making a lot of money off of the fact that she can afford housing and they can't.
Yeah.
It's a real aspirational story.
How
for
do
women.
the capital in the first place in order to be able to afford to buy up all the housing and therefore inflate the rental prices in the city where the thing is happening?
Indeed. What about woman insurance auditor? Spends her entire day telling people, no, sorry, there's a stipulation that means you're not covered and that your house that burned down will not be replaced.
No.
The insurance company will keep all the money. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
An empowering vision for womanhood.
Oh, incredibly.
A powerful woman. I've got one more.
Right.
Literally just Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, didn't Meryl Streep already do that one?
I'm sure we can do it again. It's a woman who is due power. That's empowerment, right?
Not for turning.
Surely every woman wants to dreams of becoming Margaret Thatcher. That's female empowerment, right?
Well, absolutely.
Surely.
It was good enough for Theresa May. I'm sure it's good enough for the rest of women folk.
Exactly. So get them all approved straight away. Women will be feeling powerful in their womanhood before we know
the most powerful.
Have you reached that really tricky time of the year when you're not quite sure if you need the big snuggly blanket or if it's going to be too warm the next morning? Well, you've heard of aircon. Try SnooCon, the environmental controls for your bed. Let's say you've gone to bed and it was freezing cold, so you threw an extra blanket on. But next morning, you don't want to wake up absolutely boiling because suddenly the sun's back out again. Don't you worry, our special SnooCon will take the extra blanket away during the night at a time set by your temperature controls, so that you never have to worry about overheating. Heck, it can even open a window to get some fresh air in and let all those nighttime farts out. SnooCon! It's perfect for autumn. So, What have you put in your eyes?
I put a couple of films in my eyes this
Yeah.
week. I watched a film this week called Speak No Evil,
No evil.
featuring James McAvoy. So the gist of this horror thriller is American family with child go on holiday and end up, the father of the family ends up making friends with James McAvoy, who also is family with kid, but lives in the West Country in England, and this American family have just moved to London, and the dads are getting on great, and it's like, hey, if you ever want to come hang out at our house in the country, feel free, why not? Come spend some time with us, and they eventually take them up on this offer. And it is a horror film about the horrors of watching a middle-class cis-straight white man ignore every single possible sign that his male friend is a huge fucking red flag danger.
Red flags, no.
While those red flags are really fucking obvious to the women and children around him, but he will give every benefit of the doubt and pass to dangerous, these are bad vibes white man, because he's my buddy. He's my buddy. It's got to be a reasonable explanation for it. He's my bro. He's my buddy. Has
this film got a message? Or it feels like this might be a film with a message.
I feel like this is a film that might be trying to say something a little bit political, mayhaps. in that, it might be trying to say something about, like, the degrees with which an evil, bad man might use the presence of women and children to make himself seem less threatening, to be able to get away with more, that men overlook the concerns of women and children often, and do not see the same danger signs that women and children have to condition themselves to spotting. And the clear escalation of, there were so many opportunities for you to get the fuck out of this situation if you just stopped and listened when your wife said, this freaks me the fuck out.
Yeah.
It is tense. It is a real agonizing slow burn. It is a real just sit with growing tension kind of film. It is a horror film that goes a huge amount of its runtime before actually going, now here, actively the horror event will start happening.
Right.
But it never felt like it was wasting its time. It somehow managed to make that balance work. It's a super interesting film. Super glad I saw it. It was a tense one. It was a tense watch.
There were tents.
There might have been tense. I don't think there were tense. What about you? What are you putting your eyes this week?
I have mostly been putting things on in the background while painting. So I've been catching up on the Geekenders podcast. It's just nice to catch up and think about, and I hope you get to appear on it at some point soon, so I can hear about you and Dodger's plan to keep geese, since Dodger now has a goose.
Dodger now has a goose!
Dodger has burbs?
Who raises a goose? Dodger, apparently.
Yeah! So now we need to know about, like, how the plan for Goose Chaos will go. Because I was promised Goose Chaos in an animation many long years ago. I must know how that goes. But that's basically been it for me. What about you? What have you been watching?
I watched another film. I watched a film today called The Critic.
Not to be mistaken with the cartoon series from the 2000s?
No. This is a live-action film starring Ian McKellen, who plays the worst kind of media critic. He's playing 1930s London, a theatre critic, who's the kind of critic that, a little high on his own supply, a little bit sort of, I'm better than the average theatre-going audience. He writes his sort of newspaper reviews that, wildly swing between, like, glowing praise and absolutely tearing the thing apart, because there's no in-between. If he thinks the thing is bad, he's going to delight in absolutely devastating it. The kind of critic who will use needlessly long words that there is no chance the reader will know. Because, like, it's more important that he prove how intellectual and fancy he is in his review to sort of assert that he is an authority and knowledgeable and that other people couldn't do this work. That's more important to him than actually conveying useful information in an understandable form.
Right.
He's that kind of a critic. he also happens to be gay in the 1930s, and undeniably faces some issues for that. He is relatively early on basically threatened with being fired from the newspaper for being gay, and he's got a month before his contract will be up. It's basically like, oh, there's new ownership of the newspaper. We want this to be a family newspaper, a sort of wholesome family newspaper, and your proclivities would be a problem for our reputation. And then it sprawls into, how best to put this? While Ian McKellen plays a gay man, he primarily plays an old, entitled white man who, at the end of the day, is willing to use people who are not establishment white men to his own ends to make sure he holds on to power. He is one of those, the leopards eating faces will come for me last if I can just make myself powerful and prominent enough that no one would dare come eat my face. That type. The sort of contradiction of a character who will start the film talking about how, as a critic, the one thing he will never budge on is the truth. The truth of opinion, that truth is the most sacred thing. He would obviously never change his opinion in a review because of pressure, because truth is the most important thing, before spinning webs of lies leading to so much harm to other people if the lies benefit him and keep him in power. And I was thinking a lot about, during this film, about like queer coding and villainy and gay villainhood. And it's a thing that, like, conversations about representation in media will often eventually reach a point of like, have we reached representation until we can have villains who happen to be minorities and not have that feel like it was chosen in order to make them seem more evil? And one thing I will say for this film is, I think if there was a film I could point to that feels like it's trying to do that, it's this. And in as much as Ian McKellen's character being gay is never used to suggest he is evil. To the contrary, it is the one thing that justifies to a degree some of his actions. It is the one thing that makes him sympathetic. It is the one thing that is used to try and put doubt in your mind as to the lengths he might go. It is the humanizing factor to him. It is the thing that makes you go, maybe he's doing something a little extreme here, but he is facing persecution. You know, maybe I will root for certain actions that I might not otherwise because it feels justified in a context. And no matter what points he gets to in his escalations, it never feels like it is because he is gay. It is always explicitly, that is the one thing that could have made me made me think maybe you could be redeemed here. It's never framed as part of the evil. And I was impressed at that performance and that felt to be the case.
Yeah.
It is a fascinating film about a person self-justifying the things they need to do to hold on to power that they fear losing. It's an interesting film. It's a tense watch for sure. It was interesting. I'm glad I saw it. But yeah, do you see anything else this week?
That's it for me. Well,
time for this.
hey Laura,
Yes.
we've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you have shower?
I do have shower.
And you have shower like you do, like, well, I've got to wash my hair. I'm in the shower.
I do, yeah.
I gotta condition as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta wash myself.
Yeah.
Gotta exfoliate.
Yeah.
Gotta, defungus my nails.
I suppose.
Gotta wax my legs.
Sometimes.
Gotta brush my teeth.
Sometimes.
Gotta pluck my nostrils.
Make
Gotta pluck my eyebrows.
sometimes.
Gotta have like a peel off mask.
Sure.
Gotta just make sure that my ears are all nice and clean.
Yes.
Gotta trim the sides of my head, because, the joys of having a very gay haircut.
Yeah.
Got to re-dye my hair.
Yes.
Gotta trim my nails.
Yes.
Not all of them, just the important ones.
This is a lot of things we're doing in the shower.
Gotta do my nails.
Well, yes.
Gotta have like a refreshing cooling mask.
I suppose.
Gotta make breakfast after this.
I mean, after that, yes.
Need to rinse some rice.
If you're having rice that day, yeah.
Got to set the rice cooker.
Well, yeah.
Got to feed the cat.
If you have one.
Got to deflea the cat.
Are we still talking about the shower?
That's right, this is 32 in one. Shampoo, body wash, and a suspicious number of other things.
This is one product.
One product.
I'm not sure that I want to know what product this is. If it can...
Well, it's this one. It's 32 in one shampoo, body wash, and a suspicious number of other things.
It's... So I'm putting it in my ears, on my face, in the cat food bowl,
On the cat.
On the cat, in the rice cooker.
Yep.
And
in your mouth.
And it's
up
gonna...
your nose,
and
in
it's
your
gonna...
ears.
It's gonna do all of these things.
It's gonna do all of these things.
It's gonna do them well.
According to the contract we signed, I can't tell you. And you probably shouldn't have asked.
I strike that from the record.
That's 32 in one shampoo, body wash, and a suspicious number of other things.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS 321, and you can get 321 pence off your first crate of the goo.
I'm glad they acknowledge it's a suspicious number of things.
It's in the name.
It is in the name.
Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I think I got a pretty good idea.
I love the sound of this already. Go ahead.
I mean, working on something. So,
cool.
I love getting free promo for our games.
I love that too.
Getting people excited about our games without having to do extra work.
Yeah.
And people always get really excited when, like, a new next-gen console gets announced and, like, you know, very few games have been announced yet, and you can go, like, that our game's going to be on that thing. Everyone goes, shit, we should pay attention to your game because it's going to be on thing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, the problem is that, you know, it's very rare that a new console is, like, announced. So there's very few times we get to capitalize on that free excitement.
Right.
So I vote we just start announcing our games for consoles that haven't been announced yet.
Right.
Just because free headlines. So like, here's what I'm thinking. The Playbox. What are they on? The Playbox 7 now. We just jump the gun. And say we're gonna put our next game on the Playbox 8.
Right.
The X Cube 4. We're developing for the X Cube 5. For the first game confirmed for X Cube 5.
Not announced yet, but we're saying we're developing
when
for
When it releases, we will port the game to that. Because here's the thing: if we make a game and it runs on the current thing, then guaranteed we can run it on the next thing because that'll be stronger.
Right.
So if we say the game we're making now is going to go on that thing, win-win. Like literally no reason not to say we'll put it on that thing.
You are a fucking genius.
I know.
So, what have you put in your ears?
Not a lot this week.
No, not in ears week.
I'm continuing to chip away with listening to Welcome to Night Vale.
Yes.
That has been enjoyable. I think I'm in like the 130s now, so I'm like coming up on like a third to halfway through listening to this fictional little radio show. For a while, the show had settled into doing like little 3-episode arcs, and that was quite a nice little pacing it had found its way into. It's gone back for a bit into doing like single one-off episode contained events, which has been enjoyable. There's one episode, I think it might be episode 130, that I listened to the other day that was a real fucking trip. A children's bedtime story about a kid that wanted to learn as many things as possible in the world and makes a deal with an angel to be buried alive and then experiences something very akin to like a DMT psychedelic trip that becoming the cycle of creation in a way that is quite fascinatingly told.
Reminds me a little bit of that episode of Adventure Time, where they go through the life cycle of birds and caterpillars.
Yeah, what if that, but with an added dose of I'm achieving all the knowledge of reality while losing myself in the process, and that's not a scary thing, it's just a thing that is happening. fascinatingly told story.
Yes.
Exceptionally well handled. I also very much enjoyed a recent one, the episode sponsored by Kellogg's. Hint, it's not really sponsored by Kellogg's. I don't think Kellogg's would approve of this portrayal. I think it's safe to say it wasn't actually sponsored by Kellogg's.
Wow.
It was very enjoyable. What about you? What have you been listening to?
I was trying to go to bed the other night and I came across a TikTok that suggested 100 songs from the 90s that you've forgotten about.
Uh-huh.
And I had in fact forgotten about this track, and then I ended up going through a whole bunch of other tracks, just basically through the rest of this 99 listed tracks. And there were a bunch that I had forgotten, and I added to a little playlist and listened through. Republica, Ready to Go? Baby, I'm Ready to Go?
Baby, I'm ready. Yeah.
Haven't thought about that in a while. It's a good tune. Blue Pearl, Naked in the Rain. Do you know this one?
I don't know if I know
Take Me
this
Dancing
one.
Naked in the Rain. Cover Me in Ecstasy. Well,
I don't think I do.
it's a really good track. I am a big fan. I had it on vinyl at one point. You know, back when I still owned vinyl. The Cranberries, Dreams. Because there are other tracks than Zombie by the Cranberries.
What?
that are also
Next, you'll
very
be
good.
telling me that who does Tub
Chumbawamba?
Thumping? Chumbawamba. That Chumbawamba have other songs.
They do, I hear. You're the expert on that. Republica, Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, again.
That's sweet because you're gorgeous.
No,
different gorgeous.
I know my ex-boyfriend Liza, he does it all the time.
Oh, no,
Yeah, but he's Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Ooh.
Tasmin Archer, Sleeping Satellite. A track that I remember just being like really cool and mellow, and then I watched the music video for it and was like, I do remember this music video. It's weird as fuck. Lots of, it feels like it's like a theatre production, almost.
Okay.
But because of the way the camera moves through it, it's like very much not quite that vibe, but like occasionally like, we're just going to have a light on somebody in an unusual wig. And I'm sure it's telling a story, but I have not yet had a chance to really study it and work out what do there. We listened to the Plague Inc. Evolved soundtrack.
Oh, yes.
Because we were playing Pandemic again, we needed something suitable. We listened to an hour-long mix on the Board Game Ambience channel called Pandemic Board Game Music Ambient Soundtrack. And then we listened to Sneaky Badass Spy Music for Writing Heists and Mysteries on the Abby Emmons channel on YouTube, which was also very good for Pandemic Legacy Season 0. Yeah, it was good mystery, good spy shit for Save the World.
Indeed.
Yeah, have you listened to anything else?
Nah, that's it, about it for me, I think.
Well then,
Time for this.
have you noticed a drop-off in locally owned businesses in your town?
Yeah.
Are there new luxury apartments going up on the sites of whole social housing projects?
Yeah.
Are your neighbours looking a lot more pale of late? Call Gentified, because if they're pricing the community out of the neighbourhood, we're here to help you get it back. So we've had more power downs in Sector 8 this week.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, so we are, we're supposed to be, keeping the humans they use as batteries to power the Matrix, but
Yeah.
that sector, I noticed that it's not really had any maintenance done on it for about 50 years, so what's up with that exactly?
Well, maintenance isn't really profitable, is it?
Well, no, but since, the whole lack of sun thing, we can't use solar energy, we can't use clean energy like we used to, so we kind of need the humans for power.
Look, we're private sector. What do you want us to? What do you want us to do? Spend money on maintenance that isn't immediately making us money?
Yes, because we need it so that we have enough power to survive.
Well,
and also, I noticed that 0110 keeps pressing the shit in everything button.
Well, yes, it's cheaper than clearing it all, getting someone to clear everything out.
It keeps happening. You did say that there was going to be like a whole thing for recycling all the human poop that was going to get fed back in
Yes,
and
there,
used as
and there
nutrients.
will be at some point in the future when we invest in development.
And when will that be? Because I noticed that you had like huge benefits and bonuses, but we're still struggling with the poop button getting
We've got
fixed.
people working on it. Give it another 3 to 5 years. We'll probably have an update for you on that project.
We never should have privatised the Matrix.
Plus, I want to press the poo button. I want to press the poo button.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social Justice Warriors.
Social Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
All right, Larry.
Right, Barry, how you doing?
Oh, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Doing my best to enjoy the last little bits of sun when they happen. Autumn, autumning up the place.
Oh yeah, I know.
You doing all right, mate?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I was having a think the other day about a thing that just came across me.
What have you been pondering, mate?
About how the changing times have been particularly difficult for teenagers in a lot of ways. But specifically, like teenagers, and I say this as a former teenager. Teenagers, fucking idiots. I say this with all the love in the world as a formerly fucking idiot teenager.
Yeah. I'm sure some are less prone to misdemeanor than others, but I certainly was a chaotic
the ADHD certainly didn't fucking help. But I think it's fair to say, being a teenager, part of that is you're gonna occasionally make a bit of a fuck up.
Yeah.
The kind of thing you're gonna look back on as an adult and go, glad no one fucking knows about that. That was
Fall in with the wrong crowd by virtue of being, an autistic child who will just, hang out with anyone who will have them, really.
Yeah.
And often those are not necessarily the best people to be hanging out with.
It's the classic, just peer pressure, saying yes to a thing impulsively and then looking back and going, really shouldn't have done that, And like, the social media age has definitely, I think, impacted the ability for teenagers to do something a bit stupid and to, for that to a little bit just be allowed to be, you're a stupid teen, that's, you let it slide a little bit.
Yeah, but these days, everything is somehow recorded on the internet or videoed somewhere for posterity, and you're never allowed to grow emotionally. And when I think about, how much personal growth I've had since I was a teenager, even since I'm in my 20s or 30s, I think if you exist at a time when someone go, but you did something terrible 10 years ago, and you will always, don't get me wrong, there are certain things that are unforgivable, but obviously if someone was a bit of a prick in their teenage years, there needs to be room for people to be allowed to grow without being going, you are fucked forever.
Because specifically, I think this is a little bit of a function of the way that social media tends to work online, is social media really loves a black and white story of someone is the villain of the day. They did a bad thing, and the entire internet focuses on, you did that bad thing, and we are going to point at the fact that it's bad. And that can, that can already, even for adults, lead to one stupid thing, being the thing that defines you forever.
Yeah, they end up digging their heels in, and you're getting further and further right wing in the hope of finding some sort of acceptance.
But specifically, I think there is a real issue with adults on the internet and on social media criticising and holding to account teenagers in the same way they would other adults.
Yeah.
In a way that, maybe doesn't take into account the fact that, maybe this is a teenager that did one stupid thing and you give them some room to not be defined by it. Go, it's not great, but, you are a kid, essentially, and, just that doesn't, we don't have to necessarily go, this is you forever, you did this, that needs to be the most important thing in the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, we already talk about, how mistakes of older teens can be, held on, especially if they end up getting a criminal records for, graffitiing or something, that can, potentially do them a lot of harm, especially in countries like America, where, that sort of shit will fuck you a lot harder than it might do in the UK, But, criminal conviction for something minor that didn't really harm anyone directly, or at least didn't harm anyone who didn't have millions of pounds to fix out themselves. So I'm talking about, corporations and bullshit. I feel like there needs to be some leeway, some forgiveness, some nuance to the way we react to children. As 13 to 19-year-old, I'm sure I thought I was the most mature and adult person.
Yeah.
Certainly the most mature and adult I had been up until that point.
Well, exactly.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But looking back, from the other side of 40 and just going, no, absolutely not, absolutely fucking not.
No.
You were foolish and headstrong and very poorly led by a lot of the people around you, and very poorly served by the adults who were supposed to normally be in charge.
Yeah.
And if I lived at a time now where someone could go, we've dug up video of you doing this when you were 18. You can never be forgiven for this. It's like, well, I would hope that people who actually know me at least would say, I've done a lot of growing since then. I'm clearly not the same person in many ways. But yeah, I think there does need to be space for, people to, especially very young people, to get past, the mistakes of youth.
Indeed.
Oh, fancy hug, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Good hug, mate. Good hug.
Good hug.
Right, I think I'm going to have a little lie down.
Oh, sounds lovely.
Nice.
So, Laura,
Yes.
tell people where they might find your things upon the internet.
You can find the stuff I do on the internet at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere. Laura K. Buzz on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills, Blue Sky, Mastodon, all the places. Just find me at Laura K. Buzz.
Yeah.
I will, by the time that you hear this, I will have started doing a streamed playthrough of the Plucky Squire over on Twitch. The VODs of that will be up on YouTube. Just Laura K. Buzz, you'll find all the stuff I'm up to.
Yeah.
What about you? Where are you at on the internet?
I can be fair. Well, I don't have your unified branding, but I do have a link tree. It's linktree.ee/Janiac, JANEIAC. You can find all the things that I've done, all the music and writing and t-shirts and all that good stuff, and you can help get these episodes edited, and you can help with my live streaming and such at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. As little as $1 a month really helps. And if you pay a bit more than that, you might even be able to get early access to episodes of Queer and Pleasant Strangers, if you so desire. And that's it for me. Laura,
Yeah?
will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.